Let's be honest, you're on this video because you're stuck. And every single time that you've tried losing weight before, you've either lost weight but then gained it all back, or you've lost a few kilos and completely fallen off the wagon. So in this video, I want to give you the simple framework so you can lose weight, but most importantly, keep it off for good. Why should you listen to me? Well, I've been there and done it. I've also helped hundreds of different people in the exact same position do the exact same thing. So the stuff that I talked to you about in this video works. It's maths, it's numbers, it's also mindset and how you go about it. First of all, I want to speak to you about the setup, because the setup is the most important bit. If we don't get this bit right, then the rest of it is pretty irrelevant. We have to make sure we get the numbers part and the approach that you want to take right in the first place, because that's how you're going to make the most progress. So when I speak to you about the setup, I'm talking to you specifically about your nutrition, about your training, and your daily movement every single day. But when I speak to you about your deficit, I'm talking about your nutrition. Now, as an example, let's say you weigh 80 kilos. To maintain your body weight, let's just say hypothetically, that's 2,000 calories every single day that you need to maintain your current body weight of 80 kilos. Now, a deficit is anything under that number. Now, you could go a slightly slower deficit, you could go a slightly more aggressive deficit. So let's say the slower deficit is 200 to 300 calories underneath that 2,000 calories. Let's say 1,700 to 1,800 calories. Or a more aggressive approach would be 1,500 calories per day. So a 500 calorie deficit. So there's different approaches that you can take. You can go that slower approach, or you can go that more aggressive approach. If you don't think you can stick to that more aggressive approach, I wouldn't recommend it, because you are going to feel hungry, you are going to feel tired, you are going to feel low on energy. And there's also very little room for a bit of flexibility. But if you go that slower approach, you're still going to feel hungry. You're not going to feel as hungry as that aggressive approach. You are going to still feel tired. You are going to still feel lower on energy, because at the end of the day, you are restricting energy from your body. But it's going to be a lot more manageable. There's also going to be a little bit more wiggle room when it comes to flexibility. But people can make a bigger mistake when it comes to that, where they become too flexible and then end up creeping the calories a bit too much. There's no right or wrong way to go about it. You've just got to find the approach that suits you best. Some things to consider is previous dieting history, previous dieting attempts, whether they want to take a slower approach. There's loads of different things you've got to take into consideration. But for you yourself, that's something that you and only you can decide. The next really important part when it comes to your diet and when it comes to your setup is your protein target. Protein is one of those things that helps us feel fuller for longer, and it helps us feel more satisfied. But people get confused with protein. People either go really low on protein, people don't know how much protein they're having, people don't know how much protein they should be having. Now, a really good rule of thumb is 0.8 grams to 1.6 grams per kilo of body weight. Now, that's a really simplified way of going about it, but if you're anywhere between that range, it's a really good place to start. The next part of your setup is your daily movement. Now, there's always been a big thing about trying to hit 10,000 steps a day. Now, 10,000 steps for a lot of people can feel quite overwhelming, especially when you start looking at your step target and realizing that maybe you only do 2,000 currently. So one simple thing you can do is just try and increase that average that you are currently on. So let's say you are on 2,000 to 3,000 steps a day. If you started aiming for 4,000 to 5,000 steps a day, that would make one hell of a difference, especially when it comes to losing weight. But jumping from 2,000 to trying to hit 10,000 can feel a little bit overwhelming. It also can be a bit unachievable for a lot of people. So just trying to think to increase your daily movement and increase that average by a little bit is going to make one hell of a difference on your weight loss journey. And finally, one of the most important parts is your gym training. Now, I don't want you to think of training as a form of punishment or as a form of trying to burn as many calories as you can. It's not for that. It's a place where you go and get fitter. It's a place where you grow muscles so you can look really, really toned. It's also a place where you get stronger so you can protect yourself from aches and niggles that you have on a day-to-day basis as well. But people commonly mistake going to the gym when they're dieting to try burn calories or to try burn body fat. That's not something that you should think about when you're going to the gym. And also, some people believe they have to train every single day. You don't, because rest days is just as important as training days. So if you can aim for around 2 to 4 sessions per week where you're training multiple muscle groups and you're training a full body training program, that's going to be really, really beneficial and a great place for you to start. But again, just like all the other targets in the setup that I've spoken about, it's got to be realistic for you. If you don't feel that you can train 4 times a week because it doesn't really fit your schedule, doesn't really fit your diary, then aiming for something more manageable and trying to aim for 2 sessions and doing that more consistently is going to be a much better approach that you can take. And by the way, I give you all this stuff for free, from a gym training program, from your calorie target, from your step target, in my 4 weeks free coaching down in the description below. So there you have your setup in the most simplest form. But if you get those numbers right, then you're off to a great start. I also want to split your journey down into phases. So phase 1 is 1 to 4 weeks. And when I speak about phase 1, this is probably the time where you have most motivation, because at the end of the day, you're really excited at the thought thought of losing body fat. So it's probably where you have the most motivation to go ahead and get started. And in the first 1 to 4 weeks, you can lose weight on the weighing scales quite quickly. You can probably drop anywhere up to 2 kilos in the first 4 weeks, and it can get momentum off to a great start. But one thing that I want to make abundantly clear is the most successful weight loss journeys aren't built on motivation. Now, one of the most simple things that you can do is build a system and routine for yourself in those first 4 weeks, because a weight loss journey is going to take longer than a 4-week period. It's also going to take probably longer than you think you do have in the first place, because at the end of the day, we all have more body fat to lose than we probably think we do. So thinking that you're going to be done in 4 weeks can be very, very misleading. It's also not a very realistic time frame. You've got to build your own routine. You've also got to build a system. And it's one of the best things that I did on my own weight loss journey. And when I talk about routine, I'm talking about the things that I spoke about in the setup. I'm talking about trying to make your deficit a hell of a lot easier by maybe eating a few meals on repeat. I'm also talking about planning your schedule, planning your workouts into your weekly diary. So writing them down on a bit of paper adds that extra element of accountability. And looking at your diary and planning days and times and making sure you commit to it. Simple things like this can go a hell of a long way to making your journey a hell of a lot easier. It's one of the best things that I did on my own weight loss journey is create a routine that I find easy to repeat on a weekly basis. Phase 2 is all about 5 to 12 weeks. Now, I'm going to be really honest and tell you in this stage is where motivation can start to fade a little bit, because this is where you realize you're not at that end point you thought you might be, or maybe you haven't made as much progress as you thought you should in the first 4 weeks. And being in this period is actually really, really crucial, because this is where you find out that it's going to take you longer than you think in the first place. But this is where you have to keep going. This is where the best results are made, because again, it's about repeating the same habits that you've done in phase 1 and from the setup over and over again. And those who can do that best, those who can do it consistently, are going to end up with the best results. Phase 3 is anywhere 12 weeks and beyond. Now, when I speak about phase 3, this is where it becomes about maintaining it and keeping those results long term. But when it comes to phase 3, things can change a little bit, because you go from more to trying to lose weight to trying to maintain the results you've got. So this is where you do start to increase your calories slowly and come out of that dieting phase and come out of that deficit. This is where you slowly bring your calories back up to maintenance. And this is where you can have a little bit more flexibility. You can have a little bit more freedom. But the same habits that I spoke to you about in the setup, being your training, your steps, managing your nutrition, something that you've got to keep as well. You can't just sack off all that stuff that got you there in the first place. You've got to keep it going. You're aiming to try and keep these results. And if you want to keep it, you've also got to carry on doing the thing that got you there in the first place. And this is where a lot of people end up piling all the weight back on, because they stopped doing the stuff that got them to that position in the first place. So when you've previously lost weight, whether it be 5 kilos, whether it be 10 kilos, how many times have you stopped doing what you're doing and end up gaining that weight back? Now, one of the reasons I've been able to keep it off for 3 years now, because the habits that I've been doing and habits that I talked to you about in the setup are the ones that I carry on today. If you want to keep the results that you've got from that dieting phase, you've also got to make sure you carry on the habits that got you there. And now it becomes more of a lifestyle. But this is where it should be a little bit easier, because now it's a routine. Now it's a system for yourself. This is why all the stuff you've tried before in the past, whether it be a crash diet, whether it be trying to cut out carbs, isn't going to stick long term. It's very, very hard. It's very, very difficult to stick to. But when you're doing it properly, when you're doing it the right way in the first place, keeping that result becomes a hell of a lot easier. And the final thing that I want to speak to you about is your mindset. You have to commit to the process. You have to commit to the journey. I've had clients who've lost 20 to 25 kilos and completely turned their life around. And the best thing they ever did was commit to the journey and commit to the process. If you don't commit to the journey, you're going to be constantly stuck in the same cycle that you want to get out of losing 10 kilos, regaining it back, losing a few kilos and falling off the wagon, starting again every single Monday. Do me a favor and commit to the journey, commit to the process. And you, trust me when I say this, can completely turn your life around. So there you have it. That is the blueprint, so you can lose weight and keep it off for good. That's the same stuff that I've done. That's the same stuff that I've done with my clients. You've also got an opportunity to make it a hell of a lot easier for yourself. In the description below, I've got my 4 weeks free fat loss coaching. It gives you the setup. It gives you everything that you need to go and start that journey. So go ahead and download it. And also do me a favor and subscribe to the channel and drop a like on this video so I know you're enjoying the content.